What is up, guys? We are live. It is Tuesday night. It is midnight in the UK, and it's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is an hour later than what it usually is, because our clocks have gone back and yours haven't yet, which makes it better for me, because it means for you guys, there's only a 4-hour time difference, which is all good. Anyway, enough of that nonsense. Who's in the chat? Lord's in the chat. Lord, what's up, man? I will drop a link in a minute if you want to jump on. Anybody else wants to jump on is free to, obviously. Just wanted to cover a couple of bases before I did that, because I never know never know who's going to be in the chat. Never know if anyone's going to want to jump on. So I always had to get like a little bit of a, maybe a couple of news articles up before that, so just something to keep you guys entertained. And I found a couple of articles which I think are of interest. And I always look for like these sort of like these really, really sort of generic websites who've got no interest in horror movies. Who put up these like nonsense articles, and I found one which I thought was relatively interesting. It was, and I will try and share it now. Oh, actually, this is bloody. Oh well, I was kind of right. It is a nonsensical website because bloodydisgusting.com is a fairly nonsensical website, but they came up with their top 15 Halloween kills, which I thought was worth a read because I was curious to get their take, on this whole thing. So if I can just share the screen. It always takes me such a long time to do. Never get used to this. So I go to Chrome tab. That's the one. And share. So Bloody Disgusting have rated their top 15 Halloween kills. Just set up my phone. Sorry, guys. Really, really prepared for this. While I'm doing this, I want to try and get, if any comments come through, I just want to see that I'm getting them. Okay, so yeah, I want to have a live chat. I am, oh my God, such a boomer. Oh my God, this is a disaster. Okay, we're good. Okay, so evil kills tonight, the top 15 kills in the Halloween franchise. Now, this is not a predictable one. I've brought Griffin on board for this sort of thing before with like, top, websites prediction, top 15, the best Halloween films of all time, the best Friday the 13th films of all time, Nightmare, you get the picture. You get someone on board, go through the list, and you can have a particular guess of what's going to be number 1, what's going to be number 5, number 10. This is completely random because this, top 15 kills in the Halloween franchise, it could be anything, and this is just one website's opinion. Bloody Disgusting, which I don't trust one iota because I think this website lost all credibility when it went completely apeshit crazy over the Blair Witch movie from 2015, where they described it as the scariest horror film of all time or something along those lines. They lost all credibility. But, they've got a top 15 kills, which I'm curious to see because, I have no idea where I would stand with top 15 kills. There's been so many. How would I even remember? I mean, most of the kills I remember are from the first couple of films. After that, it kind of all merges into one, apart from a few standouts. And obviously, some of the kills from the latest film stand out because they're so recent. But if you ask me to remember some of the kills from 2018, I can't remember anything about that film. apart from the fact that it was dog shit. Anyway, number 15, Earl Ford in Halloween 4. What do I remember of the film? Well, I remember the film well. When I remember that kill, yeah, it's top 15, possibly. I'm going to fly through this because Halloween. This is one of the right. So this scene does resonate with me. Obviously, the drowned scene in Halloween 2 is one of the most iconic kills in the entire franchise, and the way he keeps on plunging her head into the boiling water, pulling her head out. His hand and her face become more and more, just fucked up. But it doesn't affect him, of course. Definitely one of the most iconic kills. 13, yeah, the gun, yeah. One of the only times when he doesn't really use a gun to kill his victim, like they say here. The gun is more used as just, a knife, maybe. It's not really used. He doesn't fire the gun. And the first Halloween Kills scene, Sandra, that's the name apparently, I had no idea. The death scene, as brutal as it is, Michael's ingenuity and unstoppable rage came together to give us what many thought would be the best kill of the film. But there are so many more kills on this latest installment. I didn't mind her kill. Her kill was acceptable. I didn't like the husband's kill, where he just kept on plunging a knife and getting over and over again, like getting more and more knives. Like he was like, it's like if it was just, people have said this is what Michael does. I disagree. Saying he's making it like an artwork, like as he did in the original Halloween, where he kills and he comes, to Linda with the sheet on. I don't see it. To me, this was a strange kill. He just kept on plunging knife after knife into him. I thought this was odd. I thought this was really, really odd. But I do like this kill. I do like the kill of Sandra. Big John, the eye gouging scene. It's a good kill. I mean, Halloween Kills, it's got good kills. There's no denying the fact that it's got good kills, but you've got to have the build up to the kills for it to mean something. I think Big John did have a build up. I think he was a likable character. I think him and Little John, I think they built those characters up, so when they were killed, it had a little bit of emotional impact. But so I've got no issue with these kills being in the top 15. My problem with Halloween Kills was always, like it's been with a lot of the Halloween films after one, basically, is you're killing off characters who you've got no emotional connection to. But I did have an emotional connection to these two characters to some extent. At least they did try and build them in some way. So I've got no issue with the Big John kill. Number 10, Stark Halloween. Yeah, this is a great kill. This is Halloween 3, I love to see just the way he rips his head off, and just the gush of blood is just so good. And you got that sim score at the same time, just like, oh, great scene. Number 9, Nurse Marcus, Halloween Kills. No, I didn't like this one at all. I thought the whole car scene was just fucking retarded. I thought that was just completely stupid. Didn't like anything there at all. And yeah, they just wiped out an iconic character just without giving it much thought as well. The way they did with Sheriff Brackett as well later in the film. So no. Halloween 6, Kirsty McNice. John, well, he was a douchebag character, so you could argue, yeah, but I wouldn't say it was a top 15 kill. He was just a douchebag character who nobody liked, so maybe that's why they placed it there. Halloween 2, no, I'm not even going to go there. Oscar, Halloween 2018, no, not a good kill in my opinion. my yeah, I mean, this is a great scene in the Halloween franchise. You know, you can't argue with this. I mean, this is Michael after 20 years getting his comeuppance, and Laurie finally getting, you know, retribution. Sorry, you know, for 20 years of just being completely destroyed by this person and like leading to alcoholism, and she finally gets redemption and chops his head off. Unfortunately, it's just completely eroded by the events of the following film. But I totally agree with putting this film with this kill in it. Before Buddy Jr. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Yeah, maybe. I think there's a Halloween 3 kill I prefer, which maybe I don't think it's going to be further up. The middle-aged woman in bed when she's playing with the badge, and I like that kill. It's not okay. It's not like a direct kill by an assailant, but I love that kill. Fuck off, Dr. Sartain. No. Cameron Halloween Kills number 2. No, I don't like. It's not top 15. It's not number 2. Bob John. It's a good kill, but is it the number 1 kill? No, there's no build up to it. Well, there's build up compared to other Halloween films. There's a massive build up to Bob's kill, but in the Halloween movie, his kill there isn't really that much of a build up. I would say Annie had a much more of a build up. Yeah, there's a few kills I'd put way above that, but it is what it is. And bloody disgusting, you know. It is what it is. I'm not a big fan of the site, but you know, it's not a normie site. So I mean, they do know their horror, but they are maybe. I've never really trusted them since the Blair Witch Project or the Blair Witch. I think they lost all credibility there, but. Yeah, so it is what it is. I'll just share the link if I can do that. So there you go. If anyone wants to hop on, feel free to hop on. Lorne, if you're there, mate, jump on if you want. Mike took my feel. Yeah, it does feel like I'm obsessed with this film, Sean. I'm not. Although it does seem like that's all I ever talk about. Yeah. DJ in Halloween Resurrection, it said the person was a paramedic. Do you think that person was a stuntman for? Oh man, Halloween Resurrection is so I can't even remember anything about Halloween Resurrection. It's such a bad film. I don't know. I've seen that film 4 times, and every time I try and eradicate it from my memory. My favorite kill is the one about Michael. Yeah, well, I mean that's literally in the article they've just written. It's a great kill. The kills in 2018 were brief or off-screen, like the Hamas one. You don't see the sound of kill. Halloween Kills. Halloween 2018. I'm bored by that film now. It bores me. Kills is far from perfect, as I've said, but I'd say it's more entertaining. Infinitely more entertaining than 2018. 2018 is just a mind-numbingly dull film. Oh my god. Anyway, onwards and upwards. Where was I going to go next? Right, okay, so Chucky the TV show. Right, where do I start with this? This show is so fucking strange. It's got really, really. I love Brad Dourif. I love the fact that Brad Dourif's back. I like the look of the doll. I'm not overly, I don't. Why do they always have to be like in these shows? But why do they always have to be ultra rich? These kids are just the ultra rich. They're just so privileged. They live in mansions. It makes them extremely unlikable. These kids are just so unlikable. Even the main character, he's not a particularly likable character. Chucky's getting into his head and he's trying to convince him to kill Lexi. Is it Lexi? I think it's Lexi. And he's kind of, he was a perfectly normal, he wasn't a perfectly normal kid. He's seen his dad obviously being murdered by Chucky, although I don't think he actually knows it was Chucky at the time. Well, yes, he did, but he was just a normal kid. And he's kind of just, in the space of like a couple of episodes, become really, really twisted. And he's still a heart-a-good kid, but Chucky's really getting into his head, and he's walking around, he's making stabbing motions, and he's picking up weapons, and he's fantasized about killing Lexi. And I'm thinking, this kid isn't particularly, Lexi's a complete bitch in the show, and you can understand why he wants to, do what he does. But it doesn't make for a sympathetic character. And like, Chucky's not sympathetic. Chucky's just like, just a completely crazed mass murderer, and Chucky's likable because of just his humor, but Chucky's a piece of shit. He'll do anything to just, and just going back to like, we talked about Chucky in Pizza Stream last week, and I was slightly uncomfortable with the whole, like, the way they were portraying these kids, like they were meant to be 13, going on 14. Lexi's character was meant to be, like, 14 or 13, and she was like smoking weed, and she was trying to get her boyfriend into bed, and she was trying to get to have sex with him. And I was like, this feels a bit, it doesn't really fit a Chucky movie. And I don't think I really sort of, when I was trying to put my point across in Pizza Stream, I don't think I really put my point across very well. It's like, there's a time and a place for, underage sex and kids taking drugs, but do that in a kids, the film Kids did this in the 90s, although they did actually use older teenagers, like 16, 17-year-olds, to portray this sort of lifestyle. It can be done in a meaningful way, with a decent director and a serious sort of, taking it seriously. But this is a Chucky TV show, and I was like curious, so I went onto like Wikipedia, and like Lexi's character, I thought, oh, this girl is like probably about 16 or 17 in real life. She was 13 when they filmed this. She's just turned 14. So when they were doing these scenes where she's smoking weed, and that's not really the issue. The scenes where she's, getting it on with the boyfriend and she wants him to like have sex with her. This was a 13-year-old actress, which is just fucking weird. This is just this is strange. I don't want to see this in a Chucky TV show. If she'd been like 16, 17 in real life, fair enough, whatever. Even that would have been a bit, if she's portraying a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old, it's still a bit weird in a Chucky TV show. The fact that she actually was 13 and you've got like this grown man, I'm assuming it's a grown man, it could have been a woman, directing a 13-year-old girl to like portray a sex scene with like a 14, 15-year-old boy. It's one thing doing it for like, a serious movie, you could understand, but for this, for a Chucky TV show, it just comes across as really, really odd. And the whole show is just, the kids are too young. The kids are too young. I can't relate to it because they're just acting in a way that, like, to me, is just a little bit weird, a little bit creepy, because they're like, oh, they literally are children. They literally are meant to be playing 14-year-olds, and they're being played by 14-year-olds and 13-year-old children, acting in a really overly sexualized way. And it's just weird. And I don't want to see that in a Chucky TV show. Just, nah, fuck off. It's just strange to me. And call me, I don't know. Is it just me? I don't know. I'm surprised Netflix aren't streaming it, because Netflix love all that sort of stuff. But anyway, yeah, that's all I've got to say about Chucky. Next, Boba Fett, the trailer. Has anybody seen the Boba Fett trailer? I have got zero interest in this upcoming film, TV show. Sorry. When anything drops by Star Wars now, I am just so cold to it. There's just zero interest there. There's nothing there at all. I hated The Mandalorian. Season 1 felt like it felt like a video game. You know, episode 1, complete a mission, onto mission 2. Carry on. It was just, have you seen the Lightyear trailer? I don't even know what the Lightyear is. DJ, I'm still sharing a screen here. Yeah, I've no idea what Lightyear is. DJ, is that I've seen a new trailer? There's a new Patrick Wilson movie coming out next year. Like a sci-fi disaster movie where aliens are going to come and wipe out the Earth. I mean, I'm a sucker for that. So, Jamie's in the chat. What's up, Jamie? What's up? Nice to see you on board. I will just. I'll just send another link. Even I've just sent one. Because if anybody wants to jump on, you're more than welcome. Lord, where you at, man? Lord, come on, jump on, man. And where's Griffin? Griffin's usually here by now. Anyway, back to Boba Fett. I've just got zero interest in this film, and just keep on saying film. I've just got zero interest. It's the films that have made this. It's the films that have made me like this. I mean, the Disney sequels have really killed it. Any interest for me, and I wasn't a big fan of the George Lucas prequels, even though there's been a big, massive resurgence towards his prequels after the Disney disaster. I think a lot of the old school Disney fan, a lot of the old school Star Wars fans who hated the George Lucas prequels are kind of now showing a lot of love for those films, because they hate Disney that much that they're prepared to show a lot of love for the Phantom Menace and, obviously Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the Clones. I wouldn't go that far. I hated the prequels. I hate the sequels. I hate the new trilogy. I hated Rogue One. I know a lot of people love Rogue One. I liked the Darth Vader scenes. I hated Grand Moff Tarkin's sort of really bad CGI. But nothing can prepare me for like how bad. I mean, The Force Awakens wasn't bad, but Last Jedi was just an absolute disaster. Rise of Skywalker was potentially even worse. I mean, that film is just mind-numbingly bad. I can't even bring myself to watch that film again, and I really should watch it again, because how can I really critique that film based on just one viewing? But it was at the cinema, and I did nearly fall asleep, which sort of tells you everything you need to know. But yeah, my God, man, the Star Wars trilogy just the sequels that just killed me. It really did. I've got nothing. I've got nothing for that. But the Boba Fett TV show, it'll probably, it'll do well enough for Disney to just keep on pumping out these normally dull, tedious TV shows for the next 3 or 4 years, because basically what Disney do now is they take these popular IPs and they make TV shows of them, and that keeps the audience ticking over until they release a big movie. So they'll do a Star Wars TV show, they'll do another TV show just while they're preparing like the next big film, and they'll do the same with Marvel. But yeah, it is what it is. I don't know. I mean, but I don't know. Anyway, any you guys got any questions? Because I've not seen much this week. I made a few bullet points what I wanted to talk about. You guys shoot some questions at me, because I'm really, really, really sort of like struggling this week, because like I say, I've seen Squid Game, love Squid. Slowly making my way through Squid Game. I'm thinking up to episode 7 now. Korea is just killing it when it comes to like entertainment. The West, the US, Britain is just so far behind when it comes to a lot of this stuff. How was your Halloween? Very boring, Jamie. We don't really do much. I mean, we do kind of, the young kids, they do go out trick or treating with the parents, and people decorate the houses. But as soon as like my son's 18, so obviously we don't do anything anymore. So we just like, once Halloween comes, like, don't decorate the house, don't want trick or treaters, don't want people knocking onto my house. So I just like sit upstairs, watch TV, and just ignore it. I'd rather just watch Halloween movies than actually, engage in actual festivities. What did you do for Halloween? Just the same, DJ. Same probably where you are. Just people decorate the houses, kids go around. I mean, one thing I noticed about Halloween, when I was a kid, we just used to go around, as kids, like no matter how old we were, and we just knock on people. We just go into random people's houses and just knock on doors. There was none of this decorating houses like there is now. Like nowadays, like parents will go around with the kids and they'll look for houses which have been decorated to do the trick or treating. When I was a kid, we didn't have any parents with us. We just go off and just knock on random people's house. We could have been knocking on the local paedophile's house. Nobody cared. The parents didn't care. They just let us go. It was like old school mentality back in the 80s. Just do what you want. It was, But yeah, it's changed now. It's like, you very rarely find kids without the parents trick or treating. They're very, very sensible now, and they keep a close eye. Like I say, back in the 80s, back in the the late 80s, early 90s, parents didn't give a shit. It's just like, yeah, just go off, trick or treat at any random weirdo's house. It didn't matter. Mike was too busy watching Halloween Kills multiple times. Yeah. It's, what can I say? It's a fun. No, I've seen the film 3 times. Is that? Well, I suppose that would be multiple times, but I've missed Jamie's. I haven't had a shooting in 20 years. We can't put the season I played week all night. Well, if you decorate, mind you, are you quite rural, Jamie, where you are? So you're not really getting like wave after wave of kids coming. See, where I am, it's quite sort of built up. So, you just got waves of people. But luckily, if you don't decorate your house, you don't get these irritating kids every 5 seconds. St. Main Brother in the early 2000s. This guy at his house, he was having a party, he was a slice of cake and money. Luckily, that's all he gave you, DJ, because that could have ended really badly. Hey, Mike, had only... Oh, hi, Anthony. What's up, man? Good to see you on board. Had only 6 trick or treats. This Halloween feels dead in the UK. Yeah, I mean, based on how old you are, though, Anthony, because, like, it was a lot more dead in the 90s. I don't know how old you were in the 90s, but in the 90s, Halloween was just dead in the UK. And what happened was, the reason there was a resurgence in the UK is because as we got more and more intertwined with the internet, and obviously internet culture started to take over, American culture obviously started to have a bigger impact on the UK, and Halloween was such a big deal in America that by the mid 2000s, Halloween had really come back with a big resurgence in the UK, which I hadn't seen since the 80s. Because I remember I was born in 76. And I remember like the mid 80s, Halloween being like a pretty big deal where I was. I mean, nobody decorated the houses, but there was loads of us kids out trick or treating. And then by the 90s, I don't remember any kids doing it where I lived. But then obviously as I grew older, just lost any interest in that. But like as the internet sort of came along and, we all came together, the world came together through, the internet, and America had like starts to have more and more of an influence on the UK and everywhere else in the world. By the sort of mid 2000s, I remember Halloween becoming like a really big deal. And I'm not saying it's, it may be where you were, you might have only had like a few trick or treaters, but I think that, in a lot of the UK, it's become like a big deal again. And I say it all depends on I think the age of the people who live in your area. Like old people aren't going to celebrate Halloween, so old people aren't going to decorate the houses. If you've got like a street with like a lot of like young parents in like the sort of 20s and 30s, they're going to be obviously taking their kids out for trick or treat, so they're going to be decorating their houses. So basically, a road with a lot of young people is going to be far more likely to have trick or treaters than a road with like a lot of old, people in the 70s and 80s, because they're not going to do any of that stuff. Yes, Jamie, you live in the country. I've seen your videos. I've seen your vlogs. I wish I lived in the country sometimes. The city is depressing, to say the least. It's got its conveniences, but it's got its downsides. Just stayed and watched Trick or Treat, classic. The way any cold winter's night should be spent watching Trick or Treat. Do people still do bonfires now? Fucking right they do. Jesus Christ, the bonfire night on. If you're in the UK, if you're in the US now watching, we have bonfire night on the 5th of November, which is to celebrate when Guy Fawkes, who's like some guy from like the 1500s or 1600s, something like that, he tried to blow up the Houses of Parliament or the House of Commons. It's like where all the government meet at the time. And he tried to blow it up and he failed. But he basically, every bonfire night, November the 5th, we celebrate by just like lighting big fires and setting fireworks off. And it's just basically an excuse to just, have a good time, hot dogs, burgers, have a drink. And, for a lot of like the young kids, it's an excuse to just, cause fucking mayhem and just basically, throw fireworks at firemen and police officers, the usual sort of stuff. Nowadays, it's 5 days of local Alex. Yeah, but you still do get like kids who just decide, forget that, and just do their own thing, which usually means fireworks aimed at people's letterboxes and stuff. The grass is always greener, way it was, they say. I miss the city with the sidewalks down the store so close. Yeah, it's it's what's the saying? I don't know if they say it in the US. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So you can take what you've got, but you can substitute it for what you haven't got. But at the end of the day, it all levels up, you know. So you've got having the countryside's great, but you miss the shops. But then having said that, if you live in the city, you miss just quiet and greenery and less crime. You can walk out your house and not to worry about getting fucking stabbed. I'm not saying you get stabbed where I live, but you know, it's just living in a city. You know, it's always a pain, and just watching your back sometimes. Not really. Yeah, I suppose so. So has anybody seen Antlers, the new horror film, which is I wanted to see it at the weekend but didn't, and I also wanted to see Last Night in Soho and didn't see that either. So I've been a big failure this weekend because that was going to be the main topic of the stream is talking about those two films, and I didn't see either of them because of just work and other shit getting in the way. Lorne's probably seen it, but Lorne won't. I'm just hoping. Where's Lorne? Come on, Lorne, jump on, man. I'm sure he's there somewhere, but one of my ancestors, one of the people who caught arrested Guy Fawkes. They had it. Bloody hell! You've got ancient family head going back a long way, Jamie. So I guess your ancestors go back to England. I looked at it as some man that you're like red. You've got red hair, so I imagine you're like Irish, Scottish, English descent. You certainly look like to me you look like Irish descent or Scottish descent. But yeah, Antlers has not been getting great reviews. To be fair, it's now I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing because the kind of Scotland Robertson. Oh yeah, definitely Robertson. Yeah. Don't get much more Scottish than that. I mean, my descent. I'm Welsh. I mean, I'm English, Welsh. Welsh, half Welsh, half English. I'm a bit of Irish. My family come from Loch Leven. Ooh. The only loch I know is Loch Ness. Oh, DJ, so you got something in common with Jamie then? Because obviously you're Scottish. So, yeah, Antlers, I'm just bringing it up now, has got a 6.4 on IMDb, and Rotten Tomatoes, it's sitting at 60%. It's not. I'm just not doing the sort of numbers. Well, I'm really not sure what sort of numbers I was expecting from this film because this is the sort of film that is kind of going to like go over the heads of a lot of the mainstream critics, I think, from what I've read. So you kind of maybe relying on more the hardcore outlets to give it to bump the score up. But I mean, this film is going to bomb in the cinemas, I think, unfortunately. Coming out of COVID, I mean, I hope it does well, but coming out of COVID, this is not the sort of horror movie that's going to really sort of get people back. I mean, and it's sad to say because, good or bad, we need experimental cinema, horror cinema back in cinemas. I mean, just it doesn't matter how well, if it doesn't do too well, it doesn't matter. As long as we've got some sort of representation there. I just hope that Last Night in Soho does good money because although it's not really a horror film, it's along the lines of something slightly more experimental. And coming out of COVID, we really need some of these less sort of mainstream commercial films to do some decent money, because if we're just going to be relying on Marvel and DC to like take us through this, then we're just going to be left in a world of just streaming services. Even Marvel is not coming through unscathed. I mean, Shang-Chi didn't do great money, and they tried to paint a rosy picture of it, but it wasn't great. They're just waiting on the new Spider-Man film, because anything before COVID, a Marvel movie doing less than like $600-700 million would have been considered a failure. Now they're talking about Shang-Chi and the Eternals doing less than that, and that being in some way successful. That's not successful by Marvel standards, not by a long shot. They're looking for those $1 billion movies, and Spider-Man is kind of really, they've got a lot riding on that film. And Venom, I've not really a full Marvel movie, I think, is probably outperformed Shang-Chi and maybe even the Eternals. Well, maybe will outperform the Eternals in terms of budget to take-ins, which is probably not what they wanted. I mean, I know it's part of that Marvel, it's the part of the MCU technically, but they want their main MCU films to be doing like major money, and at the minute they're not. And I just think that like with the end of phase 3 going into phase 4, as they call it, which I think is bullshit. I think it was phase 1 and went into phase 2. Phase 1 for me was 2008 to 2019. Iron Man to Endgame. I just see that as phase 1. This is phase 2 now, and this is like the new beginning. And they're not going to. It's come along at a really bad time. Coming out of COVID, all your main characters who people followed for 10 years have gone, with the exception of a couple. And I just think this is this awful timing for Marvel. And I just think they're really, really going to struggle to get any sort of foothold with this new phase 4, whatever they call it. I just think they're really going to struggle to sell it to people, because most people I know who've been invested in the Marvel films since the late 2000s, most of these people were kind of like younger than me. I mean, I was invested maybe 3 or 4 years into the franchise, because I'm a bit older, so I was it took me longer to get on board of it. But once I was on board, I was kind of invested in it. But most of the people I know who were like on board from the beginning, like really fully into it for like those 11 years, were like people like they're in like early to mid 20s, and those people are now like in their mid to late 30s, and they've moved on, and they were stuck around like for the duration. They wanted to see things through, because they had an agenda from day one. They were teasing new stuff all the time, and they were teasing Thanos, and you knew it was building up to something. But with the new going into phase 4, I don't really think they've got any sort of plan. And a lot of the audience who were like fully invested up until Endgame, I think a lot of them have moved on now. I think they've just, they've got other things to do. That, it's like the world's changed in 11 years. From 2008 to 2019, when the MCU was, doing its thing, we've had COVID. More people have moved to streaming. The older the generation who grew up with the MCU, have either like started off as teens and now in like maybe into the mid to late 20s, or worse than that for Marvel, started off in the early 20s and now in the mid 30s, and then I've got like kids, married, busy jobs. They haven't got time for all this. So I really don't know where they're going to go, and if they've got no clear direction, which I don't think they have. I really don't think they've got any sort of direction. The Eternals is dropping like 10, 11 new characters on everybody. Nobody knows who they are. I mean, you've got to be a hardcore Marvel fan to know who the Eternals are. Like, if you go back to Iron Man 2008, majority of normal moviegoers didn't even know who Iron Man was. They didn't know who Thor was. They knew Captain America, they knew Hulk, they knew Spider-Man, and that's it. They didn't know anybody else. Marvel with Kevin Feige obviously doing an amazing job. You know, they turned it into this massive just juggernaut, which overtook DC, who had like the two biggest superheroes of all time, and Superman and Batman. And they made these like, lesser known, you know, superheroes like the A-list billing. Iron Man became like the top of the tree over like even Captain America, and that takes an amazing team. It takes good writing, it takes good directing, it takes good world building, and I don't see that they've got that in place for this new phase. I just don't really see that. You know, phase 4 is gonna do what the previous 3 phases. Well, I say phase 4. This is phase 2. Like I said before, this is phase 2. Phase 1 was 2008, 2019. Phase 4, phase 2, whatever you want to fucking call it, is this new beginning. And well, Anthony says Mobius looks good. Marvel trying to do more of the horror characters. Mobius looks interesting. Is Mobius part of this? Is Mobius part of this Sony like sort of faction? So it's not like technically the MCU like the way that Venom is. So is he not like? Isn't it part of the Venom universe? Sort of like this sort of side thing. It's just you've got all this. It's such a mess. But yeah, as you say, it is what it is, and I don't know where they're going to go. Yeah, I think it's Sony. So, I mean, obviously, Sony have got these rights to Venom, and they've got some rights to Spider-Man. Have they still got some sort of rights to Spider-Man? Or is Spider-Man just completely under the MCU and Disney? Or have Sony got any sort of rights to Spider-Man? It's such a murky sort of situation. I know Sony have got Venom and they've got Mobius, and I think they've got something else, but the way I understand it now, Spider-Man has become completely sucked into the whole MCU. But I don't know. It's just, like I say, the whole thing is just, it's rudderless. It doesn't look good for Marvel. Maybe all good things come to an end. It's been a good run for 13 years. Maybe superhero films need to end. Maybe there's everything has a life cycle. If you look at any era, look at the 80s. Look at we had like the action films, the action heroes of the 80s. You had like your muscle bound 80 stars, like you had Sly, you had Arnie, you had your Die Hards. Moving into the 90s, we kind of moved away slightly. And if you look at the 90s as well, we moved away from like the sort of slasher elements of the 80s. As we moved into the early 90s, we kind of moved towards more of an intelligent horror movies with like the Silence of the Lambs, Cape Fear. I say intelligence. I don't think that was particularly intelligence, but it was more of a realistic horror feel. So you move your villains on screen were more like felt more human, and moved away from that sort of like the I wouldn't say comedic, more like like those sort of masked bad guys. We're moving away to that, moving towards like something more like felt more real, more visceral. And obviously then that period lasted briefly, and then we hit the sort of late 90s, and then it was straight back to slashers, and then we hit found footage, and then we got the torture porn, and then okay, this is more horror related, but late 2000s, then we hit the superhero era, and it's gone on and on and on and on for 13 years. And I just think that maybe it's time for this to die now, and just when we're going towards superheroes who people don't remember, don't recognize, and don't remember, or have no knowledge about. Maybe it's just time to just, you know, move on and just end it and just start with something new. You know, we're going to a new decade now. We're getting this superhero obsession now. We're into the third decade of it. From the 2000s, the 2010s was just insane. Are we really going to get another 10 years of this? Hopefully not. I don't know. I think that's it's the Sinister Six as well. I don't even know what the Sinister Six are. Jamie, I'm not going to judge mode based on our connection. I'm going to judge based on how fun it makes me on Patreon. I'm going to love it. I mean, I say I've got no knowledge of Mobius. Like I say, when it comes to action films and, you know, like superhero films, I'm a kid who grew up on Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman. I had no knowledge of any. I knew Captain America. I'd never seen a Captain America film, although I'm pretty sure there was one in the 80s, which was terrible. But it it's just one of these things. I just think, how much longer can this? As long as they continue to make money, we're just going to keep on getting it. But we're going to get to a point where streaming services are going to take over, and these massive budget films and are no longer going to make a return profit. And I think that's the biggest sort of concern for like the big studios now, is they've already started to make the move from cinema to streaming. So a lot of these films now, they air on the cinema on the Friday, and in some cases they'll stream on the same day. And with some films, they'll go live in the cinema on a Friday, and then they'll start streaming maybe, a few days later. It's going to get to the point where they're going to be so terrified of, pirated, copies, and that they're just going to start maybe streaming from the very beginning anyway, which is just going to have a massive effect on the cinema. Because, I mean, Dune was streaming either on day of release or a few days after. There was pirated copies of Dune going out on the internet, like within hours. So how many people were like pirating Dune? I mean, you're talking about a 2.5 hour film, which is, by all accounts, I've not seen the film, but by all accounts, is it's not the easiest of like watches. It requires attention. It requires you to like invest in it. And if people were like, well, you know what, I'm not going to be spending £10 on that, or $20 and plus popcorn and drinks, I'll just stream it illegally. That's going to have a massive impact. And not just that, people who are actually streaming it legally on HBO Max, which I think is the streaming site they opted for, that's going to have a massive impact on cinema tickets as well. Because if you know that a film's going to air in the comfort of your living room through your streaming service, then where's your incentive? Now, something like Dune obviously is a massive, massive, cinematic, milestone in terms of like special effects. Apparently, if you watch it in IMAX, it looks incredible. But most people don't care. Most people will just go, well, I'm not even bothered about seeing it on IMAX or the cinema. I'll sit on my arse, get a 6-pack in, and I'll just watch it on the big screen TV in my living room. They'll pay the HBO Max subscription, or they'll pirate it illegally, and that money's not going to the cinema. So, I mean, they're losing out. I'm still not entirely sure why they're making this. Why these big companies are making this decision For smaller movies, I get it, but for something like Dune, and I think there was another massive film recently which also did the same thing, and Black Widow, of course, Black Widow. They did the same thing with Disney Plus. Now Disney Plus were charging people to watch Black Widow, obviously, but the problem is the minute Black Widow launched on cinemas, and then the minute they put it on the Disney Plus streaming service, obviously people were just pirating that film off Disney Plus and just putting it on the internet for everyone to watch. So Black Widow, probably took a fairly big hit, and it just makes no sense to me why these companies like Disney, they can afford surely to not put it on Disney Plus. Surely they can afford to keep it on a cinema release only. I mean, I just can't see the very, very biggest films. I can't see Avatar 2 when it releases, when it ever does. I just can't see James Cameron saying we're going to put it on a streaming service on day of release. I just can't see that. I can see James Cameron saying, no, this is an event movie. This is a cinema movie, and this is the only way you can see this film for like 3 months. But I could be wrong, By the time the film finally comes around, who knows? Maybe he's changed his opinion. I mean, by the time that film comes around, he'll probably be about 85 anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy now. I don't know where cinema's going to go now. I really don't. I went to see Venom, the new Venom film, a couple of days after release. Okay, it was early. It was like 6 o'clock of an evening, but the cinema was like, there was probably the maximum. You could probably get like 1,000 people in there, and there was probably about 40 people in the cinema watching. It was just had acres of space to yourself. The only time, I mean, I can't remember the last time I went to a cinema which was busy was Endgame, and before that, probably Halloween 2018, and that was not busy in any way compared to Endgame. It was just like half full. But yeah, I don't know where cinemas are going to go now. I really don't. But yeah, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. I think the internet's got its plus points. The fact that I'm talking to you now, the fact that I know you guys, Jamie, Anthony, DJ, Lauren, the fact that I can talk to you guys and we can have a conversation is great. But the internet's ultimately got its bad points as well. And, anyone who's a child of the 80s, like you, Jamie, and me, Lauren, we remember the days before the internet, and, it's, those days are gone forever, and it's almost sad to see. But, nonsense. Nobody ever made out in the cinemas I was in, Jamie. And I never made out in a cinema either. Maybe I was going with the wrong people. I hate watching stuff at home that I really should see in the theatre. Yeah, I understand it, but unfortunately, we're probably in the minority because 99% of people will just take the easy option and we'll just stream it. And people are lazy. People are lazy by default. But anyway. I think that's it for tonight, guys. It was just I thought if Lorna had jumped on, I would have, or Griff had jumped on, I probably would have done like a 2.5 hour stream. But I've said what I want to say. Covered a few bases, and thanks to everyone who jumped on. Jamie, thank you for jumping on. Anthony, as always, man, top boy, top Geordie. Thank you, man. DJ, as always, thank you. Lorne obviously jumped on earlier. Thank you, Lorne. And I think Jess popped in as well to say good stream. Anyway, that's it for me, guys. So I will be back on Friday. Yeah, Friday, you don't miss this. Friday is a tier ranking video. I haven't done one of these for a while. It's tier ranking video for the hottest girls in horror. So basically, you know, the hot, and this is not actresses, this is characters. So when I say hottest girls in horror, I mean literally, it's not Jamie Lee Curtis, it's Laurie Strode. So Laurie Strode probably be way down. You know, I'm basing it on the characters rather than the actresses. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So that'll be Friday night at midnight UK time. Yeah, yeah, Jamie. Yeah, you'll be on board for that, won't you? Yeah. Um, and I think it will be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday. I don't know when your daylight savings kick in because we got our daylight savings just Sunday just gone. So at the minute we're only 4 hours ahead of you guys. I know it's going to go back to 5 hours soon, but I think that might be Sunday. So Friday night should be 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be midnight UK time. But yeah, that's one to watch out for. Jamie, you'll be on board for that, I know. Anyway, guys, I will see you next time. Bye.